podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Hustro.com, a leading construction management software tool.
Went out full time in my business, and now I help other 6 and 7 figure businesses and beyond really just tap into the world of government contracting. And That's like the best thing in the world, is to see them win $1 million contracts and they're just like, I can't even believe this is possible. And I'm like, It's happening every single day. And that's really the reward. It's not the money, honestly. It is the reward of allowing people to see that what is possible with what they're already doing.
Hello, everybody. Gavin Coyle. I am the Gaffer, back in studio again with Melinda Colon. I hope I got that right. I'm sure I got that right. Thanks, Melinda. Melinda is an expert in how to create, develop, process, and win government contracts, no matter where you are in the world. So if you want a niche and you want to make consistent money that you're guaranteed your money, so long as you price it correctly, government contracts are really valuable to any organization. And, you know, I'd love to get into the conversation about how percentage or what percentage of your business should be government contracts, because at least some of your percentage of your business should be government contracts and not entirely, you know, concentrated on the private sector. That in itself can have a risk to your business. And let's talk about risk. Let's talk about all that good stuff. And let's talk about how Melinda can help us and you achieve a win of a government contract. Melinda, well done. We got you to the show eventually, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, Gavin.
What part of the world are you in, Melinda?
I'm in Orlando, Florida, in the United States here. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
One of these days.
One of the downsides of living in Orlando from living in the Northeast is Christmas is hot. It's usually warm. So it's kind of weird having a Christmas tree up and also wearing flip-flops and a turtle, like a t-shirt, you know. So it's a little awkward, but other than that, it's a good place to live.
Look, there's worse places, I'm sure, on earth. And people are listening to this going, okay. Yeah.
Like, exactly. Melinda, shut up. I'm in 4-degree weather right now, just, negative 25, so.
Well, look, everybody has the good and bad of everywhere. Tell me about the good and bad of your career so far and how you got into this whole business of, helping people, business owners, construction business owners, with this government contracting. Give me the story. Really interested.
Gosh. All right. So the good and bad, man. So we talked a little bit about this post record, but so I was in corporate America for 20 years. I think it was a little bit of both. It was a little good, a little bad. It was kind of a mixture, a swirl of a kind, because I stayed there for 20 years. So something was going right. And unfortunately, it just overwhelmed myself, stressed myself out. But in the process, before all of that happened, before the end of my corporate journey, I built and developed a system to help my employer win government contracts, to keep entire departments of engineers employed for construction firms, big national construction firms, engineering firms, and even MEP firms. And so what I had to learn under a lot of pressure, a lot of just pressure, stress, and anxiety, is I have to win these contracts so that they can take their time off. They can have their PTO, their 401k, and have a salary that is going to continue to keep them employed. So it was a lot of responsibility. I would say that would be the up and down. The joy of winning a government contract that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, even $1 million, was just like I'm so glad Bob or John or Sue or whomever has a job, right? Like that's just like huge, huge release of stress.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, what's really cool, Gavin, is driving through those areas where companies that I have worked with in my consulting firm now have impacted. That is the best feeling in the world.
Mm.
because now they have created real impact and they can just, drive either with their kids and say, "Honey, I did that.
Yeah.
I was a part of that." And that's huge. That's such
Yeah.
a big authority builder in your home, let alone in your business. So, it's really just exciting and just something that I love to do. But I created this system, went out full time in my business, and now I help other 6 and 7 figure businesses and beyond really just tap into the world of government contracting. And
Wow.
that's like the best thing in the world is to see them win $1 million contracts and they're just like, I can't even believe this is possible. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's happening every single day. And that's really the reward. It's not the money, honestly. It is the reward of allowing people to see that
Yeah.
what is possible with what they're already doing.
And that's through your company, GovScale Insider. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So how long is that business up and running at this point?
Yeah, so I started with an agency in 2017. So what are we? 9 years, almost 9 years. And my consulting business started 5 years ago in 2020.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. So you were
Yes,
in the
thank you.
corporate world. Was it for doing this similar stuff in the corporate world prior to actually going out on your own?
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, Gavin, I was doing this. I was writing proposals, doing business development, training people on interviews, helping them with pricing strategies, like from everything in the procurement process. And And it's so interesting. You know how when you do something so often, it just becomes second nature and you don't
Mm.
think it's that cool or that interesting. But then when you tell someone else that has no idea what you do, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that that was possible.
Yeah.
So that's what happened in corporate America. I was mastering something.
Yeah.
And when I went out on my own, I then found out, oh, this is actually something you guys need. Of course, I'm happy to help you.
Brilliant. Did you start with a project? Did somebody come to you initially and
Mm.
go, "Do you know what? I want you to help us." Was that the way it all started?
Oh my goodness, Gavin. Okay, so this is what happened beginning of my business. I decided I was driving home from work. This was basically the final decision that I had to make for my life. I was driving home from work and I passed out behind the wheel. It was rush hour traffic. I was in the far left lane. And when I came to, my foot was still on the gas. There was a car in front of me, a car behind me, and I was completely freaked out. I was like, what just happened? Um, Everything, like, you can't tell me I didn't have an angel. There's no way I'm here today if I didn't have an angel with me. So fast forward that night, I was taken to the ER and they were doing every test possible because of the pressure that I had on the full right side of my body, my inability to speak clearly, just different things. And they were assuming it was a stroke.
Yeah.
And I saw my husband in the corner of my eye, sitting in the corner seat, like trying to get away from all of the scenes of me rolling back in and out on gurneys and technicians and doctors coming in and nurses asking me questions. And it was 6 hours of just excruciating stress and overwhelm. And then also not knowing what was happening. And I looked over at my husband and I could see he was trying to hold everything together. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to die like this. Like, this is crazy. Why do I keep trying to fit into a space that was never made for me? I was never meant to work this way and not see the outcome of joy and blessings in other people's life. Like, this just doesn't make any sense. It's not going anywhere. I'm
Mhm.
great at it, but the environment was not supporting who I am. So that was a decision. I remember a few weeks later, I couldn't drive for 9 weeks. And as someone who's independent like me, it's like taking a cell phone away from a teenager. It's like, that's very excruciating. So I wasn't independent, couldn't drive, per my cardiologist. And I had all this extra time. So I started connecting with people on LinkedIn. and just like re-warming up relationships, not really looking for anything, just saying like, "Hey, I have time now. I mean, what's going on?" And I told one person by the end of that conversation, that 15-minute conversation, I was fully booked. They had told
Wow.
everyone that him and I knew, and I was fully booked. And so I fast forward and I look at it and I get the question all the time. It's like, how did it start? Like, where did it come from? It was these people who saw that I was winning contracts for my employers. They had no, they did not have the strongest portfolio to win.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Who is behind?" I always see her at the interviews. I wanna know who that is. Who is that? She's on her own? Oh, I
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah.
talk to her.
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of the. Have you seen the film Moneyball?
Yes.
Yeah, the baseball, and when Brad Pitt goes into the to look for to do a trade, and the actor Noah is in the background, going to go and putting a whisper in, and he's looking at him, going, "Hold on, there's something there." Like,
Yes.
brilliant, brilliant. So, like in fairness, sounds very much like you created an authority within the space for yourself. And what I
Mm,
loved about your story was that you niched yourself into a
mhm.
very niche, you call it,
Ye
area. We call it niche over this side.
I call
But
it niche. There's
the,
some people that call it niche, and I'm like, "That's not how it was
no,
made to be sounded like."
I know, but I like the niches and riches because there is niches and riches,
That's true,
and
yeah.
and like you could very well make a very good lifestyle and a business out of just
Mhm.
doing government contracts and not doing any other contracts.
Yeah.
What was the split, do you think, or roughly within the business that you were in? Like, did you have a metric that you said to yourself, right, we need to have at least 20% of our revenue in government contracts, or was there ever any talk about that?
That's a great question. It's a question that I often answer to many of my clients who are in the construction industry. They're on private side and they're wanting to get into government public side. They're just like, what does it need to look like? So a comfortable, healthy perspective is what is a percentage of your operations that is that your revenue is going to. That's really where you want to start. So initially, I started really small. I was like, okay, let me just win one contract. Let me just make sure that this works for me. And then it was 20%, and then it was 30%. And then I realized because government contracts are so stable, yet they're not as profitable as private sector, but they're stable. That means that I can just focus government contracts on the stability of my operations, my resources, and make sure that I can weather any economic market storm that may come and know that my people are getting paid. I can sleep really good at night knowing that we just need to deliver on the same thing over and over again, which increases the value of your business when you have systems that are repeatable and sustainable. And so I would say that the key percentage to fit for anybody, not just give you like a percentage for every business, but is how much is your operations? What is the percent of your operations compared to your profit? And let's start growing towards that and stabilize with that because that honestly is what I believe why government contract is so valuable to a business.
Yeah, or I've seen companies um, who are trying to get a consistent gross profit, net profit margin within their business. And they look at the government contracts as, well, there's our foundational stuff. There's the stuff that we know is, it's going to be the same all the way through. And then we can take the ups and downs of the other stuff that's not government contracts and then average that out. And maybe we might just end somewhere around a certain figure. And I suppose it's really down to profile risk, isn't it? Like if you're putting too much profile into one area, it's and something goes wrong, and that can happen with government contracts as well. Is that they might very well turn around and go, "Oh, look, new government, new legislation. things have changed, that contract is going to come to an end. Have you had experience of that as well?
Of course, yes. I mean, just recently here in the US, their government shutdown was it delayed the fiscal year by 31 days. That's a significant amount of time. And so some of my clients were getting awarded contracts during that time. Some of my clients were losing contracts during that time. And some contracts didn't get advertised, didn't get issued because of the delay. And so now the money goes to something else. So that happens often. It happens quite often. Well, it comes down to this one key. How do we minimize the risk in government contracting? We have to build relationships just like we do in private sector. We want to build relationships with those government buyers who are putting together the budgets to buy what you sell. Just as simple as that. They're already preparing to buy what you sell for 2027. Right now, they're already thinking about that. So that means that there's already a budget publicly here in the US is publicly. I know I've done business in or consulted clients in UK, Sweden, China, and Mexico, and they have similar standards. Typically, that is public information. So now we know ahead of time before we even see an advertisement for a contract what our funnel is gonna look like, our sales cycle, our sales pipeline, our business development, marketing, months, if not years ahead. So it just kind of shifts our mindset from just a consumer to contractor. One thing that I'll say to help your audience understand this, like how do I do that? Now, if you are, let's say, driving by some construction, you're in the industry, you're like, they're way ahead. It's too late for me to get into that. What I'm gonna suggest to you to not think about the actual project itself, but I will challenge you to think about the impact of that project. So, say for example, they're putting up a new school in your community and you're like, "Oh, it's too late. They're almost done." Well, think what's next? What else do they need to serve that school? What else is that? Is it gonna be a recreation facility, like a sports area, a park, maybe parking, maybe they need a gym, an expansion of a gym? Is there competing schools nearby? Are they looking at and so just, like, opening your mind, like, if there is money, I call this money flow. If there's money in one area, energy, which is a form of money is a form of energy, it cannot be destroyed and it cannot be created. So it just moves. So if it's done at this one project, where is it going to go next? If we can think about things like that, we'll never be without opportunities, because the opportunities will continuously be created over and over again by the new problem a solution creates.
Are you looking to spend less time on paperwork and more time making things happen on site? Hustro.com is the simplest construction management software out there. Streamline inspections, defect reporting, and all your project documentation all in one app. With Hustro.com, contractors are seeing 75% less time on inspections and reports, 47% faster corrective actions, and almost a third quicker decision making. Hustro.com is the simplest software to manage construction projects, period. Level up your site efficiency today with Hustro.com.
Yeah. It boggles my mind as well, Melinda, that there is so many useful websites and government websites that actually alert you or notify you that they are going to release a tender or that they're expressing an interest of people who are interested in maybe joining a tender process. And that, if you're not joined up or signed up to these websites in your country or your local region, like that's probably 101 mistake, isn't it, in terms of the playbook for this?
100%, yes. Yeah, this is helping you plan, pre-plan, and then also, if you feel like you're behind. Let's say, for example, like, I'm behind. I only got 3 days to respond to this contract. Like, I don't have time to respond to this. Um, that rest assured that more than likely that same one will come out again. And it's just because they have to continuously buy. Take a step back and really explain what a government contract is. I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand what it is. So, a government contract is, let's say, all of our tax dollars go into this big pool of money, and the local agency, so your local town has different goals and responsibilities, like the schools or the sidewalks or the parks and recreation, or you know what's another, hospitals or city halls or things like a rail. That's great. Transportation is huge right now. So what is, like, because of that, they're thinking, oh, we have to solve this problem and this problem, this problem, this problem. You already know because you live in those areas. So you already know it takes you 10 more minutes than it should to do this because there's a problem. And so they're trying to solve those problems for their people. Now they put everything in a little budget, and a line item budget, say, this is what we think it's going to cost. Now, the first opportunity is that they have somebody who does a pricing adjustment or a pricing evaluation. So say, well, this is what the market is saying that this cost, this specific project. This is before it becomes a contract. This is just them talking about it potentially being solved. And then the next thing they do is a couple of things. I'm just going to speed up through and say that the next thing is, well, we have to put this out to advertisement. When are we going to put it? Well, what has to happen before so that we can put this specific contract out there to get advertised? That is what they're thinking about. So then they put together the calendar, like a specific quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 calendar, their specific line item, and then they say, how much money do we have with tax dollars, local tax dollars? Okay, well, we can go this far. So they'll get through these amount of opportunities that are funded. Then they say, oh man, we're out of money. What do we do? They actually will apply for grants. Your local areas are applying for government grants to get more money to accomplish goals that they have locally. So this is all happening before it becomes a contract. This could take a year, 2 years, 5 years. I mean, you have plenty of time to think about, well, what, like, how to start getting contracts and start winning them right now. You could be their advisor, you could be their study analysis, you could do, if you're a GC, you could do pricing analysis, you could provide them guidance in a price comparison. Like, there's so many things you could do before it becomes a contract. Now, why does it exist? Why are they doing that? Government contracts are there to help stimulate the economy. That is their number one goal, is to stimulate the economy. They know that 72% of the economy is ran by small businesses. So these contracts are there for you to win. They're always going to be there. It's just a matter of whether or not they know you sell what you sell. So we're just basically grabbing what's already being thrown at us, opposed to rejecting it. That's what a government contract is. So when people see opportunities, don't worry whether or not you have like 2 or 3 days. Worry that they don't know who you are. That's what you should focus on. Business development, that's what that means. Business development is building a relationship with a buyer. And when you build relationship with buyers, they'll tell you things. Oh, well, oh, I'm so sorry you missed that one. But John, let me tell you something, Gavin. Gavin, there's going to be another opportunity. We're planning on issuing this in 3 months. You have 3 months now, 3 months to make sure you have everything you need to win that contract. You say, hey, Melinda, yes, I'm really interested. What's included in the scope of work? What's included in that project? And now you have everything you need ahead of the advertisement before anybody else knows. You have unfair advantage.
I I hear you, but I also hear the other side of the story where people are saying don't want to contact a government official and they think that I'm, bribing them or sort of, get you know, I don't want to delist myself. And that's number one. And number two, who the hell do I contact in such a big organization? How do I get in touch with them? Where are these people? Am I allowed to contact them? Maybe gives a bit of context on that.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay. So number one, your current sales strategy does not work in government contracting. You can't buy them gifts, you can't take them out to dinner, you can't do any of that stuff. Like that's a no-no. Okay. But what you can do is meet them where they are. So if you go to your government site, let's say you're just your local town. Let's start there. Your local town site, your city or province, wherever you are in the world, and you go to that local site, they will have point of contacts for procurement or what they call purchasing. So either you'll see procurement or purchasing, one of those two words. On that page, they'll tell you the point of contact for purchasing or procurement. They'll tell you right there. They'll give you the email address and they'll give you the phone number and they'll give you the name. You just call them up. It's publicly available right now. So,
And that's for
yeah,
sorry to cut across you, but that's
yeah,
you could be they could be all types of contracts. That's not just construction contracts, by the way. That's
that's
everything.
correct.
Yeah, and you look,
Hmm.
it could be a whole department, but poor Gavin, his name is on the list, and he's getting the one that's getting hounded with phone calls every day. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
um,
Hey, you know what's really cool, Gavin, too? Because I know, like, your audience are busy business owners, right?
mm,
They're wearing a lot of hats, and they're really busy. They don't have time sometimes to, you know, um, you know, to get some of this stuff done. Totally get it. At the minimum, get registered for your town.
yeah,
Get registered. Just go online, register with your business name, your email address, a couple of pieces of information you already have available,
yeah,
and at least get on the list. This is why many of my clients will receive a phone call from the agency, from the government, this office, and say, "Hey, we have this project. We see that you're registered with us.
yeah,
Are you interested?" Just do that.
yeah.
Now, that's not going to happen all the time, but
No,
it does happen. It
it
does
happened
happen.
to us. It happened to us. But glad you said that, Melinda, because we seen a tender coming in from the government, and we didn't apply for it because
Mm,
we felt we didn't have the capacity to deliver it, and
wow.
we had other stuff going on. So we got a phone call a couple of weeks later. It's like, you didn't put your tender in here. What's going on? It's like, the government are ringing us. So why didn't we put it in? Now, you might turn around and say, look, maybe they have a metric, and maybe you can answer this. Maybe they have a metric that they need to have at least two or three bids in order
Yes.
for them to be regarded as a successful tender.
Mhm,
Otherwise, if just one person, and I've heard these stories from government people as well, that they've had situations where nobody has tendered for a contract
mhm.
or one person has tendered for a contract. Maybe
Yeah.
talk around that maybe a bit.
Oh gosh, that happens so often. Okay, so another golden nugget, there will be a lot more rebids. And what Gavin was talking about where no one responds to. I mean, can you imagine someone just holding up a sign that says, "Here's $10 million." Um, does anybody want $10 million?
Yeah.
You don't have to change anything about your business. You just can take the money and do the thing that you do for someone else for us. Anyway, so that's happening left and right. And what happens after that is that they put it out again, and it's called a rebid. And so
Okay.
they'll rebid something before they pick up the phone and start calling contract or vendors, right? So that's really important to know. Now, there is for the majority of contracts that are above a specific threshold, and I don't know where the threshold is um, throughout the
It's
world, but I
it's
do know
different.
here in
Yeah.
the US, it is different. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's specific thresholds into which they need a certain amount of bidders. And usually it's three. So that's accurate. Usually it is three. And it's usually like, half a million, a million, so on and so forth. The contract is a lot larger and it's a necessity. It's an
Yeah.
essential contract, things like that. Um, so in those instances, they will actually have to rebid again, or they will pick up the phone and call. So this is why we want to get registered, because our contract, the next contract might be a lot closer than you think.
Yeah.
If they only knew who you were. Like, who's the person that you think of when you think of, like, let's say a restaurant. Let's say your favorite restaurant for what do you love to eat? What's your favorite meal? See, I'm asking the
I'm doing the
questions now.
Nando's thing now. So at the moment,
Oh, good.
yeah, considering I was vegan for a number of years.
Wow.
Yeah, but I
That's
wouldn't
really
say
cool.
I'm a major fan. But yeah,
Okay. So, like, when you think of the meals that you're having right now, what is the restaurant that you love going to?
yeah, Nando's restaurants, like a Nando's restaurant will be
A Nando's restaurant.
one of them. Yeah,
Yeah. And so why?
convenience, consistency, and price.
And you go there and you have a great experience, I'm sure.
100%
Okay. So these are the
part of
same
the
things that,
convenience. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, part of the convenience. But these
yeah,
are things that government buyers are looking for. They're looking for consistency, convenience. They're not looking to, you know, uh, try to puzzle your website, or they don't need all that nonsense. They
mm,
just need you to be registered in their system and be serious about doing business. And if you're already in business, you're serious, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the step that most people don't want to make because they're not aware of how it works. And that's how it works. They're just people. They go to your church, they live in your neighborhood, they have
yeah,
kids in football just like you. I mean,
yeah.
it's just the same thing. They just so happen to work for the government.
And there's another one that I've come across as well, and I don't know if you've come across it your side,
Yeah.
is the expression of interest model,
Mm,
where
yeah.
it's not a tender bid, but maybe you might be interested in tendering for this contract. And what I've seen sometimes with those expressions of interest is they actually put a sort of their idea of what the budget is for that
Yes.
tender. So it could be 800,000. So they're hold on a minute. So they want to know, am I interested in going for this tender that they're willing to give out for 800,000 that they want me to bid for? So if
Yeah.
I'm bidding for this and I put in 1 million, chances are I'm not going to get it.
Yeah. 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 It's really interesting is, that is an opportunity. So, ins so there's a couple of things. In part of my system, I teach people this, but there's a couple of things. In the letter of interest, or the expression of interest, there's also the source is sought for federal here in the US. So this is them asking, is there anyone that does this that could do it for what we think what it costs? And so they're either doing two things. One, they're validating what they were told that the cost is based off a consultant, advisor, etc. Or two, they have no idea what the cost is, and they're looking and they're using old data from a year ago, especially, I mean, it's when you're in a business with materials, and you're including materials and supplies into your costs, like tomorrow is going to be a different, the market's going to fluctuate so much compared to a 12-month cycle. So we look at that, and they look at that and they say, is this still doable? Like, that's what they're doing. So this is an opportunity. Even if you don't respond, and I recommend, if it is not within your price line, like you're not going to make any profit on that job and you're going to hurt yourself, I wouldn't recommend not to bid. I would recommend not to bid. But even if you don't bid, this is they're just asking who's interested. Once that deadline is passed, reach out to them. Ask them, like, how did they come up with this number? Where did it come? Would it be helpful and supportive for them to get guidance and support on what is working right now in the market? These are things that we could do proactively. So when we see that they're putting a letter of interest out and they're saying, this is our budget, our cost that we cannot exceed, We think to ourselves, where did you get that? Instead of, oh, well, that's not going to work. I don't even know. This has to be programmed for someone else. Think, where did you get that number? Because that's the more important question. And if they don't know where they got their number, or they're just kind of pulling it from the sky, then great. Would it be helpful? Would it serve you if I provided more of an analysis so that you can have a better understanding of what the budget currently is? Because again, going back to that, they have a line item. They think it's 800K, $800,000. And if they think it's 800,000 and it's a million, then everything else has to fluctuate. So now they have to make sense of how can we get as close as possible to 800,000 so that we can do everything else that we promised that we would do.
Yeah. Very, very good. So, okay, so let's take the scenario. Let's just throw it out there. Tender comes in. We're all going for this. Gavin Coyle Roofing Empire LLC is going to go for this tender. It's literally just come in. I have an office manager. I don't have a purchasing or procurement team. I do have a QS, but he or she comes and goes. They're like more freelance than anything else. So I'm just going to have to do this myself with the office manager. Walk me through a dummy's guide to dealing with that tender.
Oh, this is exciting. Okay, I'm going to simplify it. Okay, so I call this the GovCon sales strategy. This is my proprietary system that I've helped clients achieve over $5.79 billion in the last 5 years.
Well done.
So thank you. So first things first, we start with prepare. Like, what are we going to sell? There's so many opportunities. There's so many contracts that instead of going into Willy Wonka's factory and not knowing what you want, focus on what do you want first. That's very, very important. It keeps you focused, but it actually increases momentum exponentially. I have clients that are running businesses, getting into government contracts, running $10 million business, winning $7.5 million contracts in less than 90 days because they focused, right?
Mhm.
So focus is key. Second thing is target buyers, target contractors who are buying what you sell. Start locally. That's easy because you can leverage your location, like where you live. You live in this community for X, Y years. You have your kids in schools, et cetera. Leverage that. So step number 2 is targeting the right buyers who buy what you sell. And then step number 3, once you have figured out who buys what you sell, which I would recommend a limit to 4, no more than 4, because it's a relationship. It's like I'm meeting Gavin and Melinda and Bob and Mary and Sue.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make sure you understand who they are. And then step number 3 is strategize. So now that I know who Gavin is and who Melinda is, and I know what to sell to them, how do I sell it? What are they asking for? What do they need right now? And what's projected, or like what's planned for the future? When I know that, I know what partners to build. I know what work that I want to prime, or like I want to contract directly into my business, or I want to be a subcontractor, someone who is working under somebody's business, which is great because if you bring that opportunity to someone and you work under them, that's great. They love
Yeah.
you and they'll give you even more work, by the way. So that's like the strategy. You want to think like, okay, so how can we build this strategy to work so that we can grow and hit our revenue goals for this year? That's how we think. Step number 4 is submit. This is where we put together the proposal, your price, your pricing kit, or your pitch deck is basically responding to the questions and their intent, and then also including the price, like whatever your price is. Let's not make it complicated and say like what should the price be? At minimum, you should be at 10%. If you're under 10%, it starts getting very heavy and it's hard to deliver excellence at under 10%.
Net, obviously.
That's really important.
That's net.
So
That's
at a
net.
minimum,
Sorry, Melinda.
yes,
Obviously,
yes,
not gross.
yes.
Just for
No,
clarity
not gross.
purposes.
Yes, thank you so much. So that's step number 4. And then lastly, step number 5 is to track. It's like, track our progress. How are we doing? Are we winning? Are we losing? Either way, when we win or lose contract, we want to know what worked and what didn't work so that we can go and iterate. One of the things, oh gosh, it was, can't remember the person that said it, but I was just recently reading Rockefeller's letters to his son. There was 38 letters to his son, and it's a book. And I was reading through it, and there was something that really stuck out to me. And he said that those that just, I'm going to paraphrase it, but those that just take action and never reflect back on what worked are fools. So if we just go out there and start winning contracts, okay, yeah, we're winning contracts. We
Yeah.
don't understand why we won it. It's foolish
Yeah.
because now
I
we
agree.
we can't build leverage and we can't grow in control. It's like out of our control. We don't know what's working. And so then it's inconsistent. So those are the 5 steps. It's really quite simple when you think about it. 'Cause you don't have to change anything about your business. You don't need to change anything about your operations. This is just adding a revenue stream
Yeah.
to your business. That's it.
Hello, Gaffers. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. We love every one of the guests that we have, but in order to bring on more great guests, we'd love to build the channel with you. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's create a really great community where we bring in better and better guests for you to deliver great content and great pieces of information that you can take back into your business. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, and I like it that you keep it simple, and for what it's worth, you should have a Google Drive folder or Dropbox or whatever it is, and you have that model in your in your in your files, because once you do it right the first time, and even if you don't win the tender, you can always keep on going back to those same documentation, the same questions, because you find that a lot of the questions are repetitive.
Yes, very repetitive. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Gavin, which I teach my clients, is you want to answer the question behind the question, the intent. Like, why are they asking to see 5 years of experience? Why? What happened in the last 5 years? What could potentially have impacted them in the last 5 years? This is a question I get to ask my contacts after the deadline, is like, "Hey, who have you been working with the last 5 years? Like, what was that experience like?" They're going to tell you. We want to know the intent behind every single question because, to your point, they are repeated and they're looking for people who care. They're looking for people who are not just going to put a number. They're looking for people to say, I understand why this is so important to you. This is important because you want to make sure that we actually know what we're doing and that we spend the money to get you the result that you're looking for. So we need to show you our past performance. We need to show you how we installed this. We need to show you that we've done this presentation before. Whatever that you sell, that's going to be very important.
But generally speaking as well, Melinda, you'll be called to um, a interview process, if you want to call it that, where you might be down to the final 3 if it's a big tender, or maybe you might have won the tender and they'll invite you to give a presentation on how you're going to execute on the tender. Can you give us any hacks or any sort of knowledge base on that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay. So 100%. So if the contract here in the US, if it's above, I think it's like 10 million ish, you usually will go to interview before you get awarded the contract. And I've seen contracts from 6 figures all the way to a billion. So I'm the process is the same no matter how big the contract is. Let me just make sure that you understand it. So it's either before or after. But we want to do in that conversation, we want to know who is in the room. So important. Is it going to be the financial person? So we need to make sure that we're going to talk about numbers and keep it really short and clean because they want to make sure that everything adds up. If you dealing with a user, then you need to make sure that you have a point of contact that they can reach out to. They want to make sure that they feel like you're going to be, or your project manager or whoever is going to be leading the conversation, they're going to be available. That point of contact is going to be available. So that's a financial user. If it is anyone internally, let's say the decision makers, powers that be, their bosses are the users. Like, so everybody has a boss. So their bosses are the users. They just want to make sure everybody is happy. So as long as you make sure that every single person in that room has been spoken to or spoken for, you're in really good shape. These are questions you can ask ahead of time. So before the interview, you can ask this question once they tell you, hey, you're shortlisted to win this contract. You can ask them, who is the selection committee? You more than likely already know this information because you've built a relationship with your buyer. And then right after you're awarded the contract and they ask for a sit down or um, what they call like a strategic meeting or a kickoff call or kickoff meeting, that specific meeting, hey, who else is going to be there? I want to make sure that I'm prepared ahead of time. And so you just do a quick Google search or LinkedIn and you find out what they're responsible for. You prepare that information for them and make sure that you're speaking to that thing just like you would anyone, right? You try to explain how a cell phone works to a 4-year-old, right? To someone who's never had a phone before. You want to make sure that you address every single person and make sure that they're a part of the conversation. That is a huge, huge win. Huge win.
Yeah, because we've often seen, you know, documentaries or, things on TV or whatever, where you see people coming in and they just focus on one person and they exclude everybody else in the panel, and they hate that. They absolutely hate that. They like, this person's not looking at me, and next thing they start coming up with biases. Okay, he's misogynistic, or she's got, issues with men or whatever. I don't know, whatever. But for what it's worth, and of course you're the expert in it, they're really nice people, and they're here they want to award this contract. Like, you're gonna, you have to really mess it up in order to not get it. So if you're not strong on presentation skills, bring somebody in that does presentation skills. If you're not strong on finances, bring your accountant or your CFO or your interim CFO or your QS or whatever. What I found as a small company was pack it. Get as many people together as you can, and before the meeting, have the pre-meeting meeting of saying to everybody, here's your role, here's my role, here's what I'm going to be doing. You don't say anything until I address you and ask you here, or if I say, can you bring in the finance, or there's nothing wrong with saying, great question. Would you mind if we came back to you and clarify that subject following the meeting? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right. Yeah. They love transparency. It's a relationship. It's not, and just like to talk to presentation. It's not you're not standing up there in a three-piece suit and, you know, oh my gosh, like I have to say every word on this index card. No, this is a conversation. They want it to be fluid. They want to see your personality because more than likely you're going to, yeah, you're going to be stuck with them for a period of time. It could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 10 years. They want to know who you are. Like, am I going to enjoy having conversations with Melinda or is this going to be really difficult? And I'm going to dread every email that I get, right? So these are things that they're talking about. Have a conversation in front of them so that they could see how the team is working together. Also, who is going to answer questions? This is something that I see many teams forget to ask themselves is who is going to ask. So whatever the question is, it needs to go to the person who is the subject matter expert for that day. So if it's finance, if it's well, what about, Q4 and on the Gantt chart, it says this and like, this is what we have budgeted. So then that means the project manager and then, cost estimating needs to speak up, not you as a leader. Like you need to let your team run because that shows that you have system. That's operations. That gives them a lot of confidence that your company can deliver, not just you. So that it's just something to keep in mind.
Well said, Melinda. Well said. I'm going to throw a few curveballs at you because we're running against the
Okay.
time.
Oh man. Okay.
No, knowing what you know now, Melinda, what would you do
Mm.
different?
I would have gotten louder sooner. I would have gotten louder sooner and helped more people um, unlock government contracts so that they didn't have to wait anymore.
Wow. There's a lot of people say that when they're asked that question is, I would have done this sooner, I would have come out sooner, I would have got involved sooner, I would have started the entrepreneurial journey sooner. You know, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no mistakes. There's nothing
There's
waste,
no
but
mistakes. No.
I
There's
think
no
about
loss.
there's no loss. I think about and actually it fuels me today, Gavin, because now I know I lost that time in my mind subconsciously. So I'm even more proactive to help people. I'm like, "Oh, wait, come on, let's go. Let's get it done." And my clients love that because I keep them accountable, right? I tell them I'm gonna call you sporadically. And if you're not on your game, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, really?" And I'm like, "Yes," you know,
Guess what,
because
Melinda?
it
I
yeah,
totally believe that.
yeah,
Totally get
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
A favorite book or favorite movie or
Okay,
both?
so yeah, my favorite book is the Bible, and my favorite movie is The Sound of Music.
Ah, romantic.
I know.
Okay. My
Yeah,
God.
I know.
Something about you, Melinda, that not many people would know or would click and go, "Oh my God, I didn't know that about Melinda."
Mm. I played the viola for 14 years.
Wow. Wow.
I was first chair in the state and county for 7 of those years.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
Threw that one out for a curveball, okay. Melinda, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I am, for the listeners and the viewers, government contracts are something that builds your reputation, builds your
Mhm.
credibility, improves your consistency in terms of your profit and loss, and allows you to hold on to critical staff, amongst other things. And Melinda, coming on the show, we've only touched off it in terms of the how to win these contracts and how important they are. And Melinda's an expert in it. I would highly recommend you reach out to her. Um, from my own
Yes.
experience, government contracts are a must-have as part of your portfolio. Melinda, how did I get in touch with you and talk to me about that process?
I wanna keep it really simple depending on where your audience is. So, come and join me on LinkedIn. It's Melinda dash Colon. You just look up for my, beautiful face, beautiful honey brown face. Melinda Colon, 4.7 or what is it, 5.79 billion. I can't keep track these days. And we got all the links, all the resources. We go live, all that stuff on there. DM me there, and that way I can serve you and support you wherever you are in your journey.
Brilliant. And that doesn't mean in the States or on your side of the water. That can be Europe, because this is a global thing in terms of what our discussion today. And so that's why it's important that we, if you're a small to medium enterprise, chances are the market is at the top of where it is at the moment, and it could go down. And if it goes down, and you have this 3-year framework or 5-year framework within your business, that's a good place to be when you come out past the recession. So I'm glad, Melinda, you were giving us some of your nuggets, and we'd love to get you on the show again, because I know there's other parts of this podcast in relation to government tenders that we could have talked about. We didn't get to, but I think we covered most of it. And thanks very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is great. Such a great conversation. I love talking about this.
Thanks, Melinda. Take care. We'll see you on the next show.
All right.
Take
Thank you.
care. Bye bye.